Computer apps are about to become a lot more capable than they were before with the introduction of a new feature called threads. Previously, it was really difficult to manage data with different modes of access control. Apps on computer are about to become more capable than they were before with the introduction of a new feature that we're adding called threads. Before this feature, it was really difficult to manage data in a computer app with different modes of access control for different users or different groups of users. The example I'm going to use in this video is there's a thread of posts or comments, and a user is able to post to it, edit their own post, read other posts, and we're going to have another group called a moderator, and the moderator is going to be able to read and remove posts that are being moderated. So this feature is implemented by letting the developer of an app define a place where data can go, a thread, and then define the access control for that area. So which users or groups have which permissions related to the thread. This should allow most of the things that you'd want to do with a traditional backend where you write all the backend code yourself and hook it into a database. But this is much better for us because we don't have to worry about computationally expensive code running on our servers from computer apps. We're free to optimize this feature how we see fit, and as long as it covers enough use cases, this is going to be a really great thing. We've thought about other approaches, such as the ability to run scripts on our own servers or on dedicated servers for backends for computer apps. But then we have to worry about um, managing the amount of computation computer apps are doing and maybe billing developers for computation and making interfaces to talk to computer's backend from these backend service scripts. It's a lot of extra overhead, a huge pain for everyone. So this threads feature, it seems like the right approach. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to use it because it's on the main branch right now, and it might even be in production before I publish this video. To use this feature, there are a couple of modules in Pewter.js that will be useful. I have the developer console open right now, and this is specifically the developer console for a session of Pewter I have running in my browser. So I just used Control-Shift-J on this page to get here. And when you're in the development console on Pewter, you have access to Pewter.js, the Pewter object. This is the same Pewter.js that you'd use in an app and is documented on docs.pewter.com. So everything documented here will work. The features I'm talking about in this video are not in this documentation right now. They will be in the future. So if you don't see it there, that's why. But we'll have this documented elsewhere and of course in this very video. There are two new modules that we added to Pewter.js. One is called berms and one is called threads, which are for managing permissions and as well as groups, and also threads is for this new threads feature that we added. When you're using Pewter.js inside your own Pewter session like I am right now, it's using your user session token, and there are certain things you can do with Pewter.js that currently you can't do inside of an app. The first thing I'm going to do is create a thread. So I'm going to type pewter.threads.create, and the parameters for creating a thread are some object with a text block in this case, contents, as well as parent UID, which can be null or undefined since we're not going to put this on a parent at first. We are creating a parent thread. I didn't await that, but if I go and expand it, or actually if I go to the network tab, we can see I get back a UUID. This UUID can be used to add more items to the thread. So let's do that. We'll type pewter.threads.create again. Create a text block. We'll say other contents. And we'll set the parent UID to this UID here. So now we've created a child thread, and we'll see we got the UUID for that thread. We don't need to remember the UUID for the child thread right now because I'm about to demonstrate the list method. So that's pewter.threads.list, and then we add the UUID of the thread we want to list. Actually, that's not the case, and I just got a whole bunch of notifications. So next video clip. Yes, I see what I forgot now. It's paginated. So it's /threads/list, the URI component, and then the page. So I just need to specify the page as well. So I do that by simply adding a 0 here, and we can see the request did not fail this time. If I go to the network tab, I can see that I did get a list. This will show up to 50 items. You can just iterate over the numbers until you get an empty response, or an array with 0 items as your response. If you want to get all of the items in a thread, that might be subject to rate limiting once this is in production, so keep that in mind as well. So I now have a thread, and I can look at the contents of it. Because I own this thread, I can do whatever I want, right? I can go ahead and delete this one that I added. So let me start using awaits here so I can actually see what I'm doing. And inadvertently discover that I forgot a return here. That's the only one that needs a return, I guess. Yeah. That will also be in prod before this, or this will be on the main branch anyway before this is released. So I'm going to reload my page because I modified Pewter.js. Okay, yeah. So if I go and look at my list, we can see this is my UUID, and I'm going to delete that. Delete just takes a UUID, and once we get the response, which I'm going to be right back in another video clip. I didn't have something in a Git stash on another computer that needs to be on this computer. Okay, sorted that out. Thanks for bearing with me. I stopped doing retakes because it takes hours, and I just want to get information about how to use this feature out there as quickly as possible so people can start using it. So anyway, if I delete this now, I get no response back, but I can see the status was 200. And if I go list it again, we'll see that that item is no longer there. So that's just to demonstrate that as the owner of the thread, I'm able to add add child threads to this thread, or post to it. I'm able to delete things that I posted to it. I can even edit something that I posted to the thread. So if I go and post to it again, which was just by using the parent UID again. So I'm going to write new post. I can also edit it. To edit it, I need the UID of the post that I created, which is this one. So now I can do await pewter threads, edit, and I'm just going to double check, but I believe to edit, it's the UID of the thread I want to edit first. Yeah. So that was the UID of its parent. This is the UID of the thread I want to edit. I'm going to write text, something new. So it said new post, now it's going to say something new. We can see that it says new post in this response too, by the way. Just now if I go and list the parent thread again, it says something new. So I can also edit the thread. Okay, now it's time for the cool stuff, by which I mean the access control stuff. I'm going to try to post to this thread as another user. And by this thread, I mean the parent thread of the ones that I've been creating and editing and deleting for the past little bit. I'm going to go to this Chrome window where I'm logged in as a user called ed3. So I'm going to go to ed3's DevTools, which are orange, and I'm going to try to post to that thread. So to do that, I'm going to first reload the page, make sure that I'm using my latest changes to pewter.js, but now I'm going to run pewter.threads.create, and just as before, it's going to be some text that I want, some object here basically, and or as well as the UUID of the parent. And you'll see that I get 403. I'm not the owner of this thread, and I haven't had any permissions for this thread explicitly granted to me, so I can't do anything with it. However, if I go back to my user that I'm logged in as here, which is admin, which is the owner of this thread that was created, I can grant the user permission. And that's going to be like this. I'm going to type pewter.perms. Also, keep in mind right now, you can't do anything with the perms module inside of a Pewter app. Eventually, we're going to have a permission that you can grant to a Pewter app to let it do this if it's an app for managing permissions. But for now, you have to literally run this in the developer console while signed into the user that you want to grant permission from. We might also add GUI support for this at some point in the future. By might, I mean that is the plan. We should do that. It's just a matter of when we get to it. So I'm going to run pewter.perms.grant user. And then the arguments for grant user are going to be first the user that I want to grant to. Let me just double check that that is in fact correct. Grant user. It is first the target username. So the user I want to grant to. And then it's going to be a permission. And I'm going to grant this permission to the user. It's going to be threads. And let me just check if that's plural or not. Threads is not plural. Not plural. So do not include an S here. It is thread, colon, and then the UUID of the thread. And then the permission that you want to grant with respect to that thread. And in this case, I want to grant, actually I don't need to reference this file, I remember what it was. I'm going to grant the permission post. So user ed3 has permission to post on the thread with this UUID. So let's give that a try. I'm going to go back to ed3's console, and I'm going to try to do the same thing again. And look at that, no error. If we go and list this, so it's going to be .list, the UUID of the thread we want to list, and a number, we're going to get another 403 error because we don't have permission to list it. If I go back to admin, I can list the thread. We'll see ed3's post here. So right now we already have the ability to make write-only data. So the user can write something and then only the developer is able to use that data afterwards, or maybe is able to share it with some other groups. So that's a pretty interesting capability. The next thing I'm going to do is grant permission to list items in the thread to user ed3. So we'll grant list and we'll see if that works. Look at that. I'm now able to list these. Note that I'm also able to read the contents. That is currently the behavior, although that part is not stable. We might change that. So don't rely on always having that permission. You might also need to grant read. What I would recommend is if you're reading this text, just grant read permission also. Doesn't hurt anything since that's already available right now anyway. If you don't include read, then it's not future proof. But anyway, that's just a bit of a nuance because this is still very new and it's still in flux a bit, so I wanted to mention that. So now we have the ability to read something and we can write to it, or what I should say is we can append to it. This is append and read only. We cannot edit anything that we've posted. So if I try to do that here, we'll say edit, and we'll take, which one did I create? I think I created the one called some text. We might eventually provide an identifier for the user in this object because I'm just now realizing that that would be helpful. So I'm going to try to edit this text. Some other text is what that'll say. And we'll see I get 403. So there's another permission. I can grant myself edit to access. So if I grant edit to user ed3 on that thread, this actually isn't going to work. We still get 403. The reason is I actually granted edit permission on the parent thread. So granting list and read to this makes sense, but list to this makes sense, but granting edit to this and even read to this actually doesn't really make sense. I'll show you why. So I can actually edit the body of the parent thread. So let's see if I list this one. Well, it's a little difficult to read the thread as is right now, but if I go to difficult to read the bodies of parent threads at the moment, that is likely to change as well. But if I refresh this, we can see I changed the body of that parent thread to the ellipses there. So that wasn't my intention, right? So this would be an example of a misconfiguration of the permissions. What I want to do is I want to grant a special permission called own children of. Let me just double check that that's correct. Yeah, own children of. So if I grant own children of colon edit, what this means is I am able to edit any child of this thread that I am the owner of. So this is an interesting distinction. I can grant a user or group the ability to edit anything that's in the thread regardless of who put it there, or I can grant them only permission to edit things they posted there themselves. So that's very useful. So I granted own children of, and we can verify that this works. I'm going to try to edit this again, and this time it let me. So if I go in list, I can see that it says some other text now. However, if I try to edit this thread here, then I'm going to get a 403 error because I don't own that thread that was posted to the parent thread. You might notice a recursive nature to this. I could use any of these threads I created as a parent thread. Right now, the backend will not let you. You'll just get an error message. We're only allowing a depth of 1 for now until we have a better understanding of how this feature is used, all the use cases, and how it performs, so that we can make an informed decision about whether that recursion will actually make the system better or will hinder it. So that's the state of that for now. If you're developing on Pewter, though, feel free to remove that limit and experiment with it and see what happens. So that is in, let's see. Okay, I don't know exactly where it is in here, but it happens on post. Create, yeah. So create endpoint, methods post, and the condition is here. So this disables deep nesting. So just look for the comment that says disable deep nesting for now. And in order to remove that check, you can just delete that. that block there. All right, so moving on. We've demonstrated that I can allow edit access to a specific user. I'm going to revoke these permissions now, and I'm going to take a slightly different approach. So this is going to be revoke user instead. And then we want to revoke read. So read, by the way, should be children of read. Not own children of, because you want to be able to read the contents of any of them. But again, that doesn't really do anything right now. That's for the future. Okay, so we're going to also revoke this. And I think that's everything. List read edit. Oh yeah, we also granted edit to the parent thread, which was, as demonstrated, kind of silly. Okay, the reason I revoked all those permissions is because I'm going to start working on this more general case that I showed here, where we want all users to have these permissions on the thread that we created. So how do we grant permission to a bunch of different users? That is with a group. So this is when we can start using the new pewter.perms.list groups to see what groups exist. You'll get 3 keys here. In groups, these are groups that the current user is a member of. Owned groups, these are groups that were created by the current user. And public groups, these are groups on Pewter that everyone should be aware of that they might use to grant permissions to, for instance, all users that have registered an account and all users with a temporary account. So I'm going to add functionality for all users with a registered account, or access, I guess I should say, to the thread that I created. So I need to copy the UID of this group. And now that I've done that, I can call it pewter.perms.grant group. And this is going to be very similar to grant user, except instead we pass a group UUID, and then we pass the permission that we wanted. So in this case, we want to grant permission to list items in the parent thread. So I'll do that one first. I'm going to first verify that I can't list this anymore. I get 403 because I revoked it from the user. But now I'm going to grant this same permission to the registered users group. And if I go back over here, I'm able to list the thread again. But now, not only am I able to list this thread, but if I am ed4, which is another user that I have open right now, which has its own Pewter session open. After I type allow pasting, because this is a new Chrome window, you'll see that I need to refresh the page because pewter.js updated. You'll see that I get the threads. So I can list those as well. Any user with a registered account can. Just for the sake of completion, if I go ahead and open guest profile in Chrome, and I go to pewter.localhost 4100, I'm going to get a temporary account. You can see I have the little exclamation thing here. I'm a temporary user. If I go into the console here and I try to list that same thing after typing allow pasting, I don't have permission. So that was only granted to regular users. Or registered users, not regular users. So now what I'm going to do is put the situation that I showed in this diagram in reality. Well, I've taken already the first step of that, allowing listing. I'm going to allow posting and editing your own posts. And then I'm going to create a group called moderators. I'm going to add the ed4 user to that group. That's the purple Chrome window. Maybe I should have made this purple to match. Anyhow, Then I'm going to yeah, add the ability to delete items in the thread to that user. And actually, I am going to make this coloring consistent. This is just pewter. Okay, cool. Just for the sake of consistency, right? That was for another. I was gonna diagram something, but I don't think I need to. Okay, let's get started with user. We already added permission to list. Now I'm going to add permission to post. I'm going to add permission children of uh, children of read. So permission to read the contents of all children, whether I own that child thread or not. And remember, this does nothing right now. It doesn't take effect. You always have permission to read the contents. This is just to future-proof it. Now own dash children of. Let me uncapitalize that. Edit. I have permission to edit any of my own posts. So there we go. These are the permissions for users that we just set up. Now I'm going to set up a group for moderators. First thing I'm going to do is use pewter.berms.createGroup. I'm going to add some metadata to this. It's going to have a title called moderators of my thread. That's the title of it. We get a UUID. We're going to copy that UUID because we also need it for granting permissions to this group and adding members to this group. So I'm going to call add users to group, and I'm going to add my moderator to the moderators group. There's one moderator that I want to have. This function takes a list though. I want ed4 to be a moderator. So they're in my group. I haven't granted them any special permissions yet though, right? I've only granted, I've only added them to a group that I'm going to grant permissions to. I've been using grant group, but you might remember there is a grant user method, so I could grant these directly to ed4, but that would be a little more difficult to maintain. The next time I want to add a user, I have to add all those permissions to that user, right? So if I make a group called moderators, I can just add users to this group. For that reason, I recommend pretty well always granting permissions to groups instead of users. Okay, so that also lets you revoke a group of permissions really easily too. So don't always just think of them as a group of users. If you're granting permissions to one user, you could also make a group for the permissions you grant to that user in case you decide that that user shouldn't have those permissions anymore. Right, anyhow, moving on. I'm going to paste this group UID, and then I'm going to add the permissions that I want moderators to have. I'm going to make the assumption that all my moderators are registered users, and therefore they're going to have all of these permissions, and I don't need to grant them again to this group. So this will only be the additional permissions that a moderator will have. And a moderator will have permission to edit, sorry, not permission to edit, permission to delete any child of. And actually, while we're at it, if moderators are able to delete your post, I suppose you should be able to too. So we're going to add delete to own children of as well to the registered users group. So if you're a registered user and you post something to this thread, you can delete it, the things that you posted yourself. A moderator can delete anything on that thread, whether or not they own it. So that's the idea here. All right, so let's see if this worked. I'm going to start off as my regular user here, and I'm going to post a few things. Let's see. Threads, post. We're going to post to that same parent thread again. Sorry, not post. It's create. Create. Text. Hello, I am ed3. That's the first thing I posted. That's the parent UID. I'm going to post a few things here. And I'm going to do the same as another user. I'm going to introduce another user right now, actually. It's going to be ed5. Ed5's this red or purple. Just for the sake of having some more posts on here from other users. So that's just going to be the same thing I typed in that other console. After I type allow pasting because it does that. All right, so we have some contents here now. And then this blue or purple is my moderator. So now we have a bunch of posts here. Some of them from user ed3, some of them from user ed4, and then we have this text. Oh, some from our the owner of the thread. All right, so now we're going to, these are actually from ed5, by the way, I wrote ed4. Ed5 is our moderator. So now I'm going to edit something that I own. So let's edit this. And I'm going to use edit, the UID of that, and then text edited in all caps, just so we can see it. That says forbidden. Yeah, this isn't the yellow terminal. I don't know what I was thinking. Okay, hang on. So this is my regular user. I can edit that. And then if I go and list the parent, we can see it's edited. If I try to edit the other user, if I try to edit ed5's post, again, I wrote ed4, but this was from user ed5. If I try to edit that one, I'm going to get 403 because I don't own it. If I try to delete it, I'm going to get 403. If I try to delete my own post, so I'll delete this first one, hello, I am ed31. If I delete that one, that should work. So I'm allowed to delete that, and if I go and list again, we'll see that that one isn't there anymore. So that's great. The moderator, on the other hand, is this the moderator? Yeah, this is the moderator. The moderator is allowed to delete whatever. So if I list this, so I'm ed4 right now. I don't own this post. But I noticed they edited it. Maybe they put something profane or illegal there. I can type delete and then put that UID. And I have permission to do that because I'm in the moderator group. So there we go. Now it's gone. So what just happened here? We demonstrated this configuration where anyone in the registered users group can read, post, or edit their own posts, and anyone in the moderator group can read or delete posts, or sorry, they can delete posts in addition to the other permissions that a user already has. Now, there is one thing from this feature that's missing, and you might have noticed this. So if you edit something you posted, there's no edit history. If you want edit history, that means you're going to have another thread, right? And you'll need some way to reference the thread that has the edit history. So that's the issue. Multiple threads associated with one thread. Right now, a thread has a parent, so it's strictly a one-to-many relationship and not a many-to-many relationship. You could conceivably have a thread and then it has a child thread for each type of thread, like one might be replies, one might be edits, that sort of thing. But you can't put threads of that depth yet because we need to check out the performance and everything and do some more experimenting. So we're not willing to put that in prod right away. The multiple layers, I mean. So there are limitations. There's room for growth. There's a lot of potential here, but already this is going to add a lot of capability that apps on Pewter didn't have before, and I'm really excited to see what people start building with this. This is going to allow comment threads in apps, chat services, all of these sorts of things, without having a backend or having to incorporate some third-party service like Firebase. That in itself is really exciting. Eventually, we might have a WebRTC, what do you call it, signaling service on Pewter as well. So combining these two things, you can uh, use threads maybe to post, for example, chat rooms, and you could use WebRTC for end-to-end encryption and voice calls. So there's a lot of ways to use features together in Pewter right now. Um, so every different thing that you can use alongside this thread feature is just going to multiply its usefulness. Anyhow, I'm Eric. Thank you again for watching this video. I hope you find it interesting or helpful, and I hope that you experiment with this and build some really cool app on Pewter that uses this feature. Let us know on our Discord, on Reddit, or anywhere else you can find us, what you end up building.